I'm shrinking.
Okay, I'm going to call the July 10th, 2023 Long Hill Township Board of Education meeting to order. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Adequate notice of this meeting of the Long Hill Township Board of Education was given as required by the Open Public Meeting Act as follows. Notice was sent to the Echo Sentinel and Daily Record on September 15, 2022. Revised notice was sent to the Echo Sentinel and Daily Record on June 9, 2023. Notices were posted on the bulletin board in the first floor entrance hall of the School District Administration Building, Gillette, New Jersey. Notices were filed with the Township Clerk, and notices were mailed to all persons who have requested individual notice pursuant to the Open Public Meetings Act. Roll call, please.
Mrs. Butler?
Here.
Mr. Jamos?
Present.
Mrs. Daly?
Here.
Mr. Giorgio? Mr. Grosskopf?
Here.
Mrs. McLennan?
Here.
Ms. Nyquist?
Here.
Ms. Rubelo?
Here.
Mrs. Case?
Here. So welcome. We have some new faces up at the podium officially now. Mr. Alexis, do you have any communications? I do not have any.
I do not.
Okay. Board, committee, and liaison reports. Karen.
Okay. I attended, excuse me, the Morris County Ed Services Commission meeting, and they had their reorganization in June. It's by law, theirs goes in June. We are on the board again. 15-member districts are on the board. Excuse me. So there was some turnover because of the April election. Some, like I said, some districts do an April election. That commission was approved to be the, I should say, coordinator or the cooperative purchasing agent for Apple products for over 400 districts, which are part of their, the ones that they serve. And as I also mentioned before, there's a declining enrollment. So one of the things before the board is a discussion. The school, Central Park, the building is actually owned by the state, and the Ed Commission runs the school. Excuse me. But Middlesex, for instance, actually purchased their building from the state, and they had to work it has to go through legislature, so they got a consultant to do it. And the advantage they felt the advantage of doing it is they're very restricted now by the state as to what can take place in the building. If they own it, then they can expand, because there'll be room, and there are other classes or other things that they could do to make money, because that's what they are, like they're a profit center. So that's something that's before the board that we're working on. Governance met, and I think hopefully everybody got a copy of the minutes. The biggest thing is the retreat pattern or the format that we had. We're going to maintain that, and what we're also going to try to do is have a mid-year retreat to kind of catch up and give a reality check on where we've come, from obviously the last time. The proposal that for the conference, for the New Jersey School Boards Conference in October, was submitted, and the title is Governance, the Road to Trust, is the road to trust, transparency, and good boardsmanship. And it will be Kim, I, and Mr. Alexis. And training, we are way ahead on our training. Very honestly, we got mucho credits for doing the superintendent search. But we're still going to try to go ahead sometime in the fall for following the book we have, the governance book, and take the next lesson. So we're still going to try to do that. And as you see there on the agenda today, one of the things that came up was associated with Robert's Rules of Order and how to cover certain things in the agenda and labeling, etc. So you'll see now, instead of old business, it's called unfinished business. And I believe at another point, in emails we got, that you know now about how to submit for agenda items and so forth. And that's it. Oh, we're not going to have a meeting in July. We'll be meeting again in August. And the Ed Services Commission is not meeting in July also.
Okay. Any questions for Karen?
Yes, Karen, you said that there were emails back and forth about how to ask for something added to the agenda, and Robert's Rules does not say that anything is limited to having to be presented prior to the agenda being established. And as much as you could have a conversation with somebody in the supermarket over the weekend, which could raise something that you might want to ask the board to consider discussing either at a board meeting or at a later time, or even having it relegated to one of the committees. So I believe that this still needs to be looked at, because you're not held to having it in by noon on Friday.
Wait, I'm going to answer this, Karen. I'm sorry. What was clarified in the emails was that in order for it to be in print and on the agenda, that was what was clarified. I think we all agreed to that.
That's great. Yeah, no, but that's not
Okay.
what I heard.
Okay, and then,
I heard or understood. Thank you.
okay, then what was offered was that under new business, an item could be, there could be a motion for discussion or a motion for some action regarding an item, right? Is that clear for everybody?
Actually, I gotta admit, it
It's
wasn't
okay.
that clear to me. So well, first, I think there's a policy on exactly what is stated in the agenda. So for the policy meeting, we'll add that to our next. But someone can still bring something up. The preference is that if you have any questions or issues, always speak up in advance. But that doesn't refrain someone from still bringing up an issue, does it?
The only way that someone can bring up an issue is to make a motion.
Okay.
So I'd say,
And
like,
it
I'd
has
like
to be
make a motion
seconded.
to discuss.
Yes. During new business.
Got it. So if it's not, so someone can still bring it up, but it has to be seconded in the motion.
Yes.
That works.
Okay.
I guess I was just gonna add, because this came up before, Tom, when we were talking about policy, like last year, et cetera. It's not, how should I say, out of order for you to try to always bring something to people before the meeting. You don't wanna put them on the spot, you wanna give them an opportunity for a response, and who knows, somebody might have the answer. And let me say, the likelihood, I think, on the spur of the moment, really, of something coming up right at a meeting where there could not be some kind of warning or indication that something's coming up, should be virtually rare to none, in my opinion.
Should, yes.
Okay. Any more questions for Karen? Okay. Danielle?
I do not have any updates.
Okay. Ann?
I do not have any updates, except that the Student Achievement and Curriculum Committee is arranging a meeting for the week of July 18th and 19th, and unfortunately to everyone, I had said I was available at a time. My schedule actually changed, so I will send an email after the meeting and we will convene a time.
Okie dokie. Any questions for Ann? Okay. Tom?
Nothing at this time, thank you.
Okay. Alex?
Buildings and Grounds did not meet in June. We have a upcoming meeting, I believe, at the end of July, beginning of August. We're still working out scheduling items.
Okay.
No further report.
Okay. Melissa?
Do you
Oh,
want me to do
questions. I'm sorry,
finance
for
as well?
Alex. Yes. Any questions for Alex? No? Okay, sorry. Melissa?
Okay, so, as you know, we're continuing with our 1/3 of all the policies. And we're doing so well that we do not have to have a July meeting, and I think we'll still be ahead of the schedule. But you'll see many policies on the agenda today. Most of them did not have substantive changes. I'm just gonna mention the couple that may have had some changes. The sports-related concussion and head injury, which is policy 5141.8, added a symptom that now coincided with what Dr. Rovtar drafted as the regulation, and that symptom being irritability. So that was added. And our organizational chart was revised to reflect that the supervisor of buildings and grounds reports to the superintendent as opposed to the business administrator, and you'll find that in 2121E. Oh, I said it the wrong way. Sorry, I said it the wrong way. Reports to the business administrator and not just the superintendent. So also, we came up with what I think is a good compromise on the student tracking device. This was, there was a lot of discussion surrounding it, a lot of research surrounding the student listening devices, I should say. First thing is we changed the policy number so that it would be found after cell phones. And second, we discussed all the type of devices out there, and it was our goal to draft a policy that would live on despite the changes in technology that we're expecting in the future. So what the policy pretty much sums up and says that you can have a GPS tracker on your child, that's fine. But if that device allows for two-way listening and two-way communication, it is presumed to be prohibited. The the CSA or the superintendent can make an exception if there's a medical need or what that would be. Also, they're not prohibited from having those devices before the school bell and after dismissal. So people who are concerned about their children on buses and want them to use those devices, that's fine as long as they're not using them during the school instructional day. So everyone will see that. I apologize, Karen had a couple edits that I missed in the email. I saw that this was on for a first reading today. And so could we make those edits and then put it out for a second reading?
Yes.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
So Karen made some edits to ensure that it coincided with the cell phone policy, which we will also be reviewing during our August meeting. So thank you, Karen, for that, and my apologies for not seeing it. So my suggestion is to approve everything as far as the policies that you see set forth. So as far as finance is concerned, we had our finance committee meeting on July 5th. There's some different, I don't want to steal your thunder for your first meeting, so I'm just going to briefly say, we're looking at an assistant BA and an accounts payable professional. Interviews are also being conducted for the buildings and grounds director. For now, Mark will stay in that position until we find a replacement. And they're looking at resumes. We're adding a new position. It's called the district courier. This is someone who will run some errands as far as mail and lunch drop-offs and stuff like that. This will allow us to take the maintenance person back that we've been using for those responsibilities. There are now chairs at each school. You see chairs at Millington, chairs at Gillette, and chairs at Central Middle.
You don't see
You
them
will
yet.
see
You will
folding
them.
chairs.
Folding chairs.
Folding
Folding
chairs.
There are chairs at all of our schools.
Yes, sorry, my apologies. And the storage units, the storage, what are they called?
Dollies.
Dollies for them. You will see on the agenda, I don't know which number it is, but to exceed the bid threshold for certain vendors. That's something that's very uncommon. We did not go over budget. I want to make that very clear. We did not go over budget. Just by law, when we go over that threshold, they have to discuss it with the board, and the board has to approve it. We have an increase in the IDEA funds that we received this year and the ESEA funds from last year. And, interest. This is my favorite.
Mine too.
So Robin Bravo, she had this idea, and it is paying back year to date on the interest that we've earned since January, okay? $90,349.
Nice,
That was
right?
never there
Yeah,
before.
No,
That's
that's
amazing,
nice.
yeah.
And was it, what was the 4,000 was
Was
from?
unemployment.
Unemployment.
Yeah.
In addition to that, year to date, $4,591 in interest. So great way to earn additional revenue for the district. And our August meeting is August 3rd at 1 PM. That's finance and policy.
Very good. Any questions for Melissa? Just hearing Melissa run through her report reminds me that note-taking is becoming a lost art. Like, she does such a good job, and I have my younger colleagues go to meetings, and I'm like, you did not listen at all. And that is I was at that meeting, so I know that she did a very good job. Okay, Katie.
So on June 16th, the Community Relations Committee met. It was myself, Renee Rovtar, George Alexis, Karen Nyquist, and Tom Groskopf. We went over how we're going to do the website review. I'm going to be sending emails of the list, the checklist to all the committee chairs, so that the committees can then disseminate them and figure out how they're going to review everything. And the review date will be due by July 30th. So it shouldn't take a lot of time. It's a quick review. Many hands make labor light. It should not be a time-consuming process. The photos on the website are all set. We've started the discussion of the community goals for the 23-24 school year. We wanted to, kind of live with it for a bit and see if we wanted to alter it. But essentially, it's increased visibility of student achievement. Talk about things like maybe have things displayed at town hall. Each school have 2 board meeting presentations a year, since that has been fantastic. And then we're talking about other ways that the superintendent can communicate with the community. Also talking about working with the PTO and the Ed Foundation to see how we can engage better. And then just really reaching out to the various stakeholders in the community who are feeling that they're not being communicated with, and figure out how to do that, because we've really endeavored to have various ways to communicate, and people still feel like they don't know what's going on. So we want to be like, well, how do you want us to inform you, so that we're not just coming up with things that don't work. And then our next meeting is in August. We're not having a July meeting, and that is all we have so far. What else? Okay, Long Hill Education Foundation. Our movie night fundraiser is September 30th, so mark your calendars. The movie is to be determined, and it'll be at, I believe, 7:15. It's we have to figure out the nautical sunset so that the kids can actually see what's on the screen. The Ed Foundation is starting our annual fundraising drive. So we are reaching out to the various businesses in the community, parents that have businesses. This is a way that we can cover the cost of our fundraisers, and also just make donations to the school. In previous years, we've done the Spotlight for Central. We've done iPads, switches, all sorts of really exciting things. And the more we get, the more we can give. So help us help the school district. Forest classes, they will now only be 8 weeks long. And at Millington, they will only be Mondays through Thursdays. I don't know the schedule for Gillette just yet. They have much less classes. And sign-ups should be the last week in August if all goes according to plan. So, and our next meeting is July 18th at 7:30 at Bar Salento. Happy summer.
Very nice. Any questions for Katie? Go ahead, Melissa.
Not for Katie, but I just forgot to mention in finance, because it requires, it's under personnel, but it has to do with our BA, is under agenda number 41, I'll be making a motion to amend the payout of 7 days to 2 days, just to correct the error. It's a payout for the interim school business administrator. It's a payout for the assistant business administrator for 2 days, not 7. So when that comes up on the agenda, I'll just be making a motion to amend. I just didn't want everyone to be shocked when I did it.
Okay. Any questions for Katie? Okay. No, thank you. Okay, next we have superintendent's report.
Thank you. First, I want to thank the board and the staff for the warm welcome. I had a productive first week and took the opportunity on day 2 to meet with the district and school leaders. I'm excited about this opportunity, and I have plans to meet with the community stakeholders in town. The staff already has an open invitation from me to drop by the board office. I know it's hard to meet folks over the summer, but I'm eager to do that. And I look forward to learning as much as possible and planning for the school year along with the board and the leadership team over the next 2 months. We know how fast the summer does go. As far as the agenda, we wish Patricia Paul a wonderful retirement and thank her for her service to the district. There are also several appointments under personnel. We look forward to welcoming new members to our team in late August. I'll have more to report at the August meeting.
Great, thank you. Business administrators report.
Hi, well, I want to say the same thing. Thank you so much for allowing me to take this position. I am so proud to work with all of you, and it really is a highlight of my career. I can't tell you, I've had a wonderful year and a half as your assistant. I think I've learned a lot. I know Dan and Mark are listening. Thank you, guys. Appreciate it. But anyway, so I talk a lot, so let me give you my report because it may take a little while. That's the first thing. We do have 2 new hires. We did a bunch of interviews. We came up with Don Adia is going to join us. He's been a staff accountant in a Bergen district. He's coming to us. He does have his certification, and he seems like a perfect addition to our staff. So I think you're going to like him an awful lot. Natalia is coming to us from Millington. She was a part-time secretary, part-time para. She's been with us now for a week. She is learning so fast, I can't tell you, and at the end of the year, there's a lot to learn. She's absolutely lovely, and I'm thrilled that we have somebody who wanted to step up to the next spot. She felt like she was ready for a full-time position, and I'm so happy that we could offer her one. So thank you to the board for allowing us to bring them to you. That we talked about IDEA and ESEA being, the applications are in and we're accepting the funds. We have slight increases in both of those. That's really nice. We have so we'll have some money there. We have on the agenda also payment of our bonds. So we're going to make the payment in July. There are 2 bonds. That's the last year for the Series 2014 bond. We make the last payment on January 15th of 2024. And then the refunding bond goes on until January 15th of 29. So that's nice that we get both of those through. You'll see a bunch of parent contracts on the agenda. You know, parent contracts are sort of a normal thing for us. It's a really good way to save some money if parents will drive their children. It's about 50% of the contracted cost. So that's a nice thing. And then there's a bunch of just housekeeping items on the agenda. So one is that I amended the ESSER 2 grant. That's coming to an end, and I amended it just because we used the funds for a reason that was within the range, but I wanted to make sure that just in case we got audited, that it really said exactly what we used it for, so I amended the grant. And so all I really amended was the language in the grant, not the money or where we spent it, just the language, to make sure that it was clear and that they approved it, which they did. We're notifying the board of the vendors that were over the 44,000 threshold. I do have my QPA, so that's the threshold, Dan, as well. And this is just something that we're supposed to let you be aware of, is that these vendors have gone over that 44,000 limit. We have done everything correct. We didn't go over budget. We did use all the correct purchasing things. It's just letting you know that these people are over the 44,000. So you'll see that it was CDWG and Core Mechanical last year. It's going to probably be those 2 this year. In addition, we ordered a bunch of computer equipment from Computer Design, and so I've added that on. And may see during the year, I'm going to keep watching it. If anybody goes over the 44,000, we'll add that again and have it so that you're aware of it. You do see an addition of mileage for some of the staff members. We're supposed to do that ahead of time as well. So for 22-23, we had, I think, 2 or 3 staff members that, because they go between buildings, went over the 150. So we've approved them for last year to pay them out. But I also put them on right away now, so that you know for this year that they're and it included a couple other people who are going between buildings, so that they also have the opportunity to ask for the correct payout. You see a couple under the special ed, you'll see the special ed placements. And Daniel, I know you had asked the question just before we came in. So those, for the amount over $40,000 for public school, amount over $55,000 for private school, we do get X-aid back on it. And I believe the X-aid percent, we get 75% over public, and we get 90% over the private. So some of that money does come back to us. We don't have our X-aid figure yet for the 22-23 year. We should be getting it in the next, hopefully, couple days. We can't close the year until we get that figure. But it does come in July always.
Thank you.
Can I just ask?
Is she done?
Yep, I actually am.
Okay, good. Okay, questions?
That money that comes back to it, you said for the private, 90% over
55.
5,000. So, for the one that's like, 68, that's easy, that's 13,000, so we would get like 11,000 back, 11.
Yeah, our X-aid figure, we're expecting 500,000 plus back.
And only on tuition, not on transportation or anything, right?
I can't answer that for you, I don't know, but I can get you the answer. And you know what, I don't want to say on the X-aid number, let's wait until it comes out until I tell you how much it is. Because in my mind now, I'm thinking maybe I overstated
Okay,
that.
no problem. Thank you.
Other questions? Katie?
With the ESSER grant, and I should know this because I should know the website a little bit better, but in the past, we'd had the ESSER funds, what they were
What they're used
allotted to.
for,
On the, is that still up to date, or
That,
could we?
it is up to date. It is something that we're going to be looking at again in August. I'd really like to make it sort of a procedure that in August we look at it, make sure that everything is up to date, not only for our community, but there are also staff pages on there. So we have to make sure that like the W-2 form is up to date, that we have all the right things. So I think that that's one of the things when we get a little bit of a breather to go through. But like I said, yes, we do update that.
So
we do
everyone
do
can
it.
see, we got X amount of money from the federal government, and this is exactly how we
This
spent
is
it.
what we're using it for, yes,
That's fantastic.
absolutely.
Thank you
Mhm.
so much.
And we're probably one of the only districts, at least
Yeah.
one, I talked to a lot of districts where, we use our money really well. We do sit down as a group, as of administrators, probably quarterly, and go over what are our grants being used for. Do we still want to use them for that? Is there something else we should use them for? I have amended grants way more than other districts have, so that we do use our money the way that we see at the time, because what we may look at, in September, may come January, say, you know what, we really need to use it for something else. And we have the ability to do that, so it's always a good review. And people come up with really great ideas, especially as you talk to other districts, you see what they do. When I was over in Bedminster today, I mentioned to them that one of the things we put in is for our professional development. The grant allows for you to pay for subs to go for professional development, which we put in a little bit of money for, so that if somebody goes, we can pay a sub for that. Just it helps our salary budget.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of districts leave money on the table because they can't be compliant with some of those amendings, so they just sort of don't use the money. So
And I
that's
have to tell you,
great.
the grant websites are not friendly. They are difficult to use. So
Yeah.
I really do feel for people and BAs and assistant BAs when they're new, because I have experience and I get confused. There are a lot of tabs you have to tab through and a lot of documentation that has to go in. So it is confusing, but I think we do a really nice job here. And I have to tell you, our principals and our administration have great ideas on how to use things. So there's a lot to be proud of.
Great,
Thank you.
thank you. Any comments from the public on agenda items? No.
In this case, I was going to interrupt and say that we're stuck in our camera view on the feed at home, and I didn't know who had the iPad today with the controls, but there's a way to. It's just broken today.
It's above us, yeah.
I got you. You knew we were stuck.
I've been using that menu this whole time.
Thank you so much.
No problem.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so moving on to resolutions. So Karen, will you move in the minutes number 1?
So moved.
Second.
Any questions? Okay, roll call, please.
Mrs. Butler?
Yes.
Mrs. Durgijamos?
Yes.
Mrs. Daly?
Yes.
Mr. DeGioia? Mrs. Grokhoff?
Yes.
Mrs. McLennan?
Yes.
Ms. Nyquist?
Yes.
Ms. Rubelo.
Yes.
Mrs. Case.
Yes. Okay, financials, numbers 2 through 25. Danielle, will you move those in?
Wait, I'd like to make, nope, not my part yet, sorry.
Not yet. And I have yours, Melissa, but go
Thank
ahead,
you.
Danielle, yep.
Okay, so moved.
Second.
Any questions? Roll call, please.
Mrs. Butler.
Yes.
Mr. DeJamos.
Yes.
Mrs. Daly.
Yes.
Mr. DeGioia. Mrs. Grokoff. Mr.
Yes.
Grokoff, I'm sorry.
It's okay.
Mrs. McLennan.
Yes.
I feel like I'm-
Mrs. Nyquist.
Yes.
Ms. Rubelo.
Yes.
Mrs. Case.
Yes. Special services, numbers 26 through 35. Ann, will you move those in?
So moved.
Second.
Any questions? Roll call?
Mrs. Butler.
Yes.
Mr. DeJamos.
Yes.
Ms. Daly.
Yes.
Mr. DeGioia. Mr. Grovecoff.
Yes.
Mrs. McLennan.
Yes.
Ms. Nyquist.
Yes.
Ms. Rubelo.
Yes.
Mrs. Case.
Yes. Okay, personnel, numbers 36 through 53, amending number 41 from 7 days to 2 days. Tom, will you move those in?
So moved.
Second.
Questions? Roll call, please.
Mrs. Butler.
Yes.
Mr. DeJamos.
Yes.
Mrs. Daly.
Yes.
Mr. DeGioia. Mr. Grosskopf.
Yes.
Mrs. McLennan.
Yes, but abstain from 53.
Mrs. Nyquist.
Yes.
Ms. Rubelo.
Yes.
Mrs. Case.
Yes. Alex, will you move in policy numbers 54 through 60?
So moved.
Second.
Any questions? Roll call, please.
Mrs. Butler.
Yes.
Mr. DeJamos.
Yes.
Mrs. Daly.
Yes.
Mr. DeGioia. Mr. Grosskopf.
Yes.
Mrs. McLennan.
Yes.
Ms. Nyquist.
Yes.
Ms. Rubelo.
Yes.
Mrs. Case.
Yes. Other. Mr. Alexis, number 61, we have to address in executive session, a quick briefing on it. So we're not going to move in number 61 yet. We're going to move that in after we have executive session. So Katie, Melissa, can you move in other number 62?
So moved.
Second.
Any questions? Roll call?
Mrs. Butler.
Yes.
Mr. DeJamos.
Yes.
Mrs. Daly.
Yes.
Mr. DeGioia. Mr. Grosskopf.
Yes.
Mrs. McLennan.
Yes.
Ms. Nyquist.
Yes.
Ms. Rubelo.
Yes.
Mrs. Case.
Yes. Dare I go into items for discussion? Unfinished business. Any new business? Any comments from the public? Okay, we're going to move into executive session. Ann, can you read through?
The board will enter into private executive session for the purpose of discussing a harassment, intimidation, and bullying report. Action is anticipated after the meeting.
Need a second?
Second.
Okay, we can do a voice. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Abstentions? Thank you.